Welcome to Real Money, Real Experts, where we bring you interviews with leading financial professionals, sharing their stories, their challenges, and their advice for helping people manage money in the real world. I'm your host, Rachel DeLeon, Executive Director of the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education, or AFCPE.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Brandy Baxter, accredited financial counselor, AFCPE member, and your 2025 AFCPE board president. On every episode, we take a deep dive into the topics and stories that you care about the most, helping clients, building community, and growing in your work and your career. Our guest today, Adrienne Taylor, is not your average financial expert. She's a dynamic speaker, entrepreneur, and the mastermind behind Tailored WealthSaver, founded in 2019. With over a decade of experience, she's on a mission to help millennials secure the bag, build wealth, and live life on their terms. In 2024, she expanded Tailored WealthSaver through a strategic partnership, adding business consulting to help entrepreneurs level up. From breaking down money myths to empowering clients to do the unimaginable, Adrienne makes financial wisdom and business success feel achievable and even fun. Fun fact, Adrienne's financial strategies aren't the only thing flexible. Her arm can turn nearly 360 degrees. Yeah, that's true. Tune in as she shares her journey, lessons learned, and tips to take control of your finances and business like a boss.
Adrienne, oh my goodness, these are the days we wish we had our podcast on video.
Right?
Because you might have to do that party trick for us. Hopefully we'll get the chance to see you at an upcoming symposium and we can ask you to do that in person.
Yes. Like, what's one fun fact? I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of a weird fact."
That's a very weird fact and amazing. Oh man. Well, Adrienne, let's start from the very beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the personal finance space? And did you always know this was the career path for you?
Actually, no. So my career path was completely opposite in undergrad. So when I first went to my first college, which was Philander Smith College, the smallest HBCU, one of the smallest, but when I first went there, my major actually was chemistry
Oh,
because I
wow.
wanted to go on to pharmaceutical school and become a pharmacist. That was my goal, my childhood dream was to become a pharmacist. However, when I transferred schools, I still got into chemistry and I ended up going to DePaul University, which is where I graduated from. But when I transferred, I couldn't really get into the chemistry classes. So I took an econ class. It was like my first econ class I ever took. And it was a very interesting class. So then I was able to get into a chemistry class. However, then I was advised if I stick with chemistry, I'm going to be delayed on graduating from undergrad. And I was like, oh, no, because DePaul is a private university and basically it's very expensive and I don't like student loans. And so I decided to change majors. I was like, econ sounds interesting. Let's kind of shift gears. And it's still math related. So I changed over to econ. Backwards, going back several years in high school, I worked at Chick-fil-A in the mall. So one thing I often saw was people would come in every Friday. I knew every 2 weeks, like we had regulars who would come in and it was inside of a shopping mall. And so they would come in. I knew what their order was. They would always have 2 or 3 bags because they went shopping. I would just think like, man, what are these people doing with their money? Like every single week you back in here, like, don't you want to save some money or something? And so when I switched when I switched over to econ, it was more so like business focused, but it was during a very interesting time. So it was during like 2010 where we just got out of the Great Recession. So it was super interesting to study like businesses and the econ, everything of that sort. And then fast forward some more, I graduate undergrad and moved to Pensacola, Florida. And that's kind of where I got my feet wet with personal finance. I went to work at one of the world's largest credit union. And so while I was there, I actually I started in one department and then I just transferred over to a personal finance team. Did not know anything about personal finance. Well, I knew a little bit. So I paid my grandfather's bills. I started doing that in college when my grandmother passed away. I started paying his bills online. I'm like, we got to figure out some things financially with you. And I helped my family out as well. And then when I was working at Chick-fil-A, I invested in a 401k. So I knew a little bit about finance, but I'm like, let me try this out. and I fell in love with it. However, I didn't know it could actually ever become a career. So fast forward some more, I did a presentation for some students, some young girls in my sorority for our grad chapter in Pensacola, Florida. And someone told me, "Why don't you do this for the military?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Do this for the military?" I'm like, "I work at this credit union, which is military based." And they're like, "Well, you could do this for the military. I'm gonna send you a few job options. Take a look at it." So I ended up applying for a job in Jacksonville, Florida, which is where I actually started my AFC journey because I didn't know anything about AFC. And I started helping service members with their finances so that they could keep their security clearance and remain focused on their mission of serving our country, not focused on the mission of, I need to get my finances in order. And that is the very long story of how a chemistry major got all the way into personal finance and then later started a business because one of my friends, she's actually in the Air Force. Well, she's retired from the Air Force now. She stayed on me about starting a business because she was like, civilians need this too. And I'm like, great, somebody else can start it. I'm not an entrepreneur. And she was like, well, you should think about starting a business. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. And so I started Tailored WealthSaver. Honestly, I tell people this and people laugh. They're like, really? I started the business so that she would be quiet and leave me alone. So I was like,
Where you are today.
here's the business. And it just kind of blossomed from there.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Adrienne, I love this story from pharmacy to finance. That is such a cool transition. It's no secret that I cyber stalk all of our guests. And so while looking at your LinkedIn profile, I saw that you called yourself a financial strategist, which I love, by the way. But you also shared with us that Tailored Wealth Saver is kind of focused on millennials and making sure that they have access to financial guidance. So, what are some strategies that you have found most useful when working with millennials?
Ooh, strategy. So number one, obviously, we're all AFC. So obviously, the first thing is creating a spending plan. But once you create that, because we live in such a digital society, well, oftentimes we see a lot of people want to use an app or something for their spending plan. One of the strategies I like is every 3 months, it gets a little tedious, but every 3 months, I tell people, let's pull 3 months worth. Well, not every 3 months, but starting off, let's pull 3 months worth of your statements. Let's go through them, get some highlighters out, get all type of color highlighters, coloring pencils, whatever you want to do, and let's create categories. So if it's a lady, I'm usually telling her, let's create a category for Amazon or for some store that a woman can shop. If it's a guy, I'm like, let's create a category for Lowe's and Home Depot. And then I had my foot stuck in my mouth one time. So I told a guy that he was like, "Well, I don't shop there." I'm like, "Target?" He said, "No." I was like, "Amazon?" He's like, "I got you." I was like, "Okay, let's create it there." Let's go through, see how much you're spending each month, and then let's highlight everything. And from there, let's also think about why are you buying these items? Is it because you like seeing a package from Amazon every few days at your home? Does it make you feel happy? Is it because you like going to Home Depot or Lowe's because it makes you feel like this macho man? I don't tell my clients that, but in essence, that's what I tell them. Do you like going to Target because you go in, you buy one thing, and then you end up with 500 because you found this cute outfit or something? Whatever the thing is that's going on, let's create a strategy and figure out like really what is causing you to buy these items and include dining out because that's like the one area I think most of my clients don't realize how much they spend money on before they come work with me. But let's figure out why you want to go there, what actually makes you want to eat out so much? Is it because you get to go out for Sunday brunch? I live like right outside of Houston. So here, brunch on Sundays is like the biggest deal and day parties on Saturdays. Is it because this is like the way that you socialize? Let's figure out what's going on and create a strategy of why you're doing it. And then we can build that into your spending plan so that you still have fun because that is one thing we're big on is enjoying life and becoming a wealth saver.
Adrienne, you mentioned that you're not an entrepreneur, but I just recently, in the last year, you've actually expanded your business a little bit and started offering business consulting services. I'm curious what's inspired you to make, this expansion in your work.
Great question. So it was in sense twofold. So my now business partner, Chris Bell, him and I he attended, well, he actually graduated from my first school, Philander Smith College, which is now Philander Smith University. I keep forgetting that. But he graduated from my first, my first school I went to for undergrad. And him and I had talked a lot because a lot of people would come to me. They're like, "Hey, I want to start a business." If it was if it was like doing financial counseling, or if people, I have people coming to me, they want to start a business for any and everything. I have seen the most random things people want to start a business for. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, why are you coming to me to start a business?
There's a niche
But
for everything.
yes, I've learned that. There's somebody I know, and she sells purple pens, like ink pens that are purple. I was like, if that is not more, I don't know how much more niche down you can get other than purple pens. But anyway, people would come and start asking, like, how can they start a business? Or I would also have people like, hey, can you look at my business finances? And I'm like, I'm not a CPA. They're like, no, I just want to see if I'm being like, if I'm using my finances properly on the business side. Like, am I allocating them? Am I being efficient with my resources? And so Chris and I have been talking already because I've known him for so long. He actually lives in Houston. And we just decided, like, hey, why don't we offer the business consulting at the same time to be able to help the businesses, because we were turning away so many things, or we were just doing it for free because we're like, hey, we just let's just help you figure out how to do this. But now we'll actually make it a business, well, part of the business, so expand it so that we can serve individuals on the financial wellness. And then him and I together serve businesses on the business consulting as well.
I'm curious, with the transition and expanding your business and bringing in a partner, like what are some challenges that you've experienced along the way that others might, we always say on this show, one of the beauties of this is like listening to how others start their business. I'm curious, have you faced any challenges or successes that you'd want to share?
So I can tell you about the challenge I had just today in spending about an hour and a half on the phone with the IRS today.
Okay.
So like, damn, you asked this question. All right, so we've had a business credit card. Well, the business already since 2019. I've had like business accounts. I was really big on like keeping business finances separated from personal finances. And so we've had a business account. We've had two business checking accounts, and we still have both of them, but use them for different reasons now, in a business credit card. Well, last Saturday, I went to apply for a different business credit card and was advised that that's the EIN letter, which is your employer identification number. On that, it had wealth saver as two words, not as one word. And I was like, oh, I never realized that, because we've had all these other bank accounts and we had a business credit card and we've gotten the business. Originally, I was in Florida when I first had the business. Then I moved to Texas. So the business has gone from two states. Nobody has ever caught this. So I called the IRS because I'm like, hey, I got to get this form updated so I can get this business credit card. And they advised me, and it has 0% interest. That's really why I wanted the business credit card, 'cause it has 0% interest for a year. And the IRS advised me not only they could update that, but I also told them, like, hey, I had to update. We have a partner. I sent in the paperwork about a month and a half ago. I understand it's tax season, so you may not have gotten to it. Can I check on that as well? Oh, by the way, I called in when we first got a partner because you have to update the state and you have to update the IRS. Well, the IRS did not receive the information that I had sent everything in, even though because I sent it certified mail, they didn't have the information. So the person I spoke with today, she was so helpful. She advised me that instead of sending a letter, as I was advised, you have to send in a form. And then the taxes are going to be filed differently, which I already knew. But for last year, because the IRS had not approved it yet, I still need to file as a sole member. In addition to that, they had to update my address because, not my address, the business address, because the address was still listed as Florida, even though as a sole member LLC, I had filed the taxes under myself personally. But the problem was, even though I updated the address on the tax return, the IRS did not update the address for the business. So when you switch things up, well, number one, the move that would have had to change anyway. But when you add in a business partner, you have to go back, do your art, not the corporation, but you have to go back and do your operating agreement again because you have a new business partner. You have to go to the IRS, contact them, fill out a form, and it is not a letter. And if anybody wants the form, I can get you the form in just like 3 minutes because I just had to do this form today. and then you have to send that into the IRS, then you have to wait a month, then you have to call them back. So I say all that to say I'm thankful that this one hiccup occurred, even though it was very frustrating in the moment, but just make sure you update the IRS. I said all that to say make sure you update the IRS because it is not the easiest thing to do.
I mean, those are such real examples. My husband's an entrepreneur, and so much of it you learn by doing. And I would also say, thank goodness for the probably the kind person on the other end of the
Yes.
line
So
that
thankful.
walks you through. And now, as painful as it was, you will be passing along that knowledge to others, a lesson learned. So it's not easy.
So let's turn the coin to the other side now, right? That was a challenge. And it sounds like, although it was a challenge, it was totally a lesson learned. But a lot of our listeners are also in the financial space and they're looking for additional ways to expand their businesses or things like that. And so share with us some of the benefits of going into a partnership.
Oh, you're not everything anymore. I will tell
Mm,
anyone, I don't think I
Yeah.
will ever do sole proprietorship ever, ever, ever again. Now I'm using the proper names because I spoke to the IRS today. But I will never do a sole member LLC again. As a sole member LLC business owner, you are, or just sole LLC period, you are marketing, you are sales, you are client retention, you are the counselor if you're doing financial counselor, you are the social media guru. If you have a podcast,
mhm.
you are the producer and the editor. When we had a podcast, thankfully I had Q who did the editing. I'm so thankful for him, but you are everything. If something does not get done, it's because you did not get it done. You can use AI to help you, but until you hire work or help people to help you, you are everything. As a partnership, you are not everything. It is so much better. You have somebody else to help like carry that burden, carry that load with you. And it's not a burden. I think it's a blessing to be an entrepreneur, but sometimes in the heat of the moment it could seem like a burden. But in all honesty, I will say it's a joy and a privilege. Now, the financial wellness side is still 100% me, but the business consultant is 50-50. But now, if we're taking a call, it's two of us, and when we're working to help a business out for whatever they're trying to get assistance with, it's two of us, it's two heads, and not just myself trying to do everything. So, partnership is beautiful. However, in all capital letters, make sure you have the right partner.
Yes.
Thankfully, I have an
Mm.
excellent business partner, but at the same time, if you don't have a good business partner, that can be a huge hindrance. And I'm seeing more and more how that could have been a hindrance if I did not have the right business partner. So make sure y'all have conversations. Him and I, he has a whole family. He has a wife and a son. So he has his own life going. I have my own life going, but we are able to still like have the personal and the professional, but it's very separate of the two. But I think it is important to just make sure you actually like who that person is going to be because you're going to be connecting a lot with that person and needs to be someone that you can trust. So I know some of my things that were important to me is make sure it's something that's very important I carry in with the business. I don't really advertise it, is that the person is a person of faith. Because one thing that Tailored WealthSaver does, we give back. The goal is to give back 10% every year of profit to an organization or organizations or causes that we believe in. So because of that, I had to make sure he was okay with that. So obviously he was, thankfully, but make sure you have the right business partner if you do expand when you expand out your business because hopefully that's the goal is to expand it.
I love that. It's making sure that you also align with goals and with values. And I often find
Yes.
too, look for a partner that complements you, that doesn't have the exact same skill set, because that allows you to let go of some of the things that maybe don't bring you as much joy. And hopefully there's a balance in that too.
Yes, and that is huge. So he's a project manager by trade. And so for him, he looked at some of the things that I had going on. He was like, oh, we could do this, this, and this, and organize it and create an overall project for it. And I'm like, okay, do your magic. That's not my realm. But like you said, complementing each other is really important.
Adrian, as we look ahead to the remainder of 2025, I mean, we're just at the beginning, but I'm curious, is there anything happening in your business that you're most excited about?
That is a great question. There's a few things I'm really excited about. So last year we held it was called Unifying the Block, and it was like basically a pop-up shop for businesses. It was more B2B, but we're going to do that again. So looking forward to that. We don't have the dates yet for that, so I can't tell you any dates yet. But I am really looking forward to that. And then another thing on the financial wellness side, something that I have been mentioning for so long is that I want to be able to help more people instead of like without using my time. So hopefully we can do something in partnership. We are working hopefully on a partnership. So hopefully I'm not speaking too soon. But we're working on a partnership to where we can offer like an online course or something that it really can help people, but it's still tailored to their needs. So it'll have like a lot of different like options you could choose from and subjects and topics for the course, but that is hopefully in the works. Those are the two things I'm most excited about.
Well, you're putting it in the universe so that it's going to come back to you. I love it.
As we think about the value that this podcast adds to its listeners, Rachel and I like to think about all these nuggets of knowledge like deposits in our knowledge bank. And so, what would you add to the bank if someone were to ask you, what are your 2 cents? What would you add to our knowledge bank?
I don't know if this is necessarily knowledge or if it's more so based upon what I went through. So in 22, 23, I went through like what I call definitely a life-changing event. I ended up going through a divorce. It was finalized in 23. And so one thing I learned even with having a business is it's okay to give yourself grace and to take a step back when you have to. And I say that because ironically, even though I took a step back, like, so our social media, Instagram, that was previously posted on so frequently. It used to be so many reels. Now I post like so often. And I stopped doing that just because the fact, well, actually, my podcast co-host Q, he was the one that told me I had to stop recording. He was like, he's told me to stop making the podcast. He was like, you can keep recording podcast episodes if you want to, but I'm not going to edit them. And I'm like, oh, so how are we going to have podcasts? He was like, we're not. You're going to take time for yourself. And I look back on that, and that was probably the best bit of advice I had because I'm so used to being busy, busy, like work, 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 work. I did not take that time for myself. The problem is now I'm learning how much I do enjoy my time for myself. And I haven't got back to
Right.
posting as much because I'm learning I really do actually enjoy spending time with myself. Take time for yourself. So even though I was actually concerned that the business might go away. But ironically, even without posting as much, because now if you get a post once a month, we're going to ramp that up more. But if you get a post once a month, I'm like, hey, that's good. But even without doing that, because of referrals and word of mouth, I've actually, on the financial wellness side, there's been more clients than what there were before when we were doing a lot of posting. So I
Wow.
say that to say, like, if you are doing a good job with your services, it's going to come, but you might have to think about creative ways. So thankfully we have somebody that gives referrals for the financial wellness side. But I would say that's my bit of knowledge. Like it's okay as a business owner to take a step back when life happens. And I think it's almost necessary to take a step back because it helps you to focus on you and then you can help your clients once you're a better person.
Such good advice.
Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been really a pleasure. And for all our listeners, can you tell them what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Sure thing. So we are on Instagram when we post, but we do respond to messages more than we post. But we're on Instagram at Tailored Wealth Saver, TAILORED Wealth Saver, which is one word, not two words. Even though it has us in there, it's two words. And then we're on LinkedIn, which doesn't get posted to as much, but you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn, Adrienne Taylor on Instagram or on Facebook. And then if anybody has questions, they can feel free to email us as well. And then we have our website that you can connect with us there too.
Fantastic. And Adrian, you have a podcast. You mentioned, are you back to recording?
And remember that part when I said that I haven't got I started enjoying life too much. I will say we've had some Excellent, excellent guest. But I definitely want to get back to the podcast. It's just figuring out where to put the podcast back in. But consistency, oh, that's another thing. I would say consistency is huge. And right now, I'm not being very consistent with the podcast, but I do think consistency is huge so that your audience knows, okay, this person isn't taking a break. But when you're my client, I've never had a client say she's not available. You get my full attention.
Well, thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for asking about the podcast.
Wow, Rachel. Adrienne was so good. I love it when we have guests who have actionable information that is something our audience can use. Her strategy around the 3 months of the budget, check. That is definitely one to keep in the books. And I love her transparency when she shared the real benefits of having a partner. I know a lot of our AFCs are probably thinking about starting their own business. And I thought Adrienne's tip around thinking about having a partner because it divides up some of the work, I thought that was really useful.
Yeah, I did too. And I think that's the beauty of our community too. I think the more I get to talk to AFCs and as people are starting to go into private practice, engaging and networking and meeting people that have similar interests and ideas, it's so much different than it was years ago. Your partner doesn't even necessarily have to be in the same town as you. You know, a lot of things are moving virtual as well. So it's great to collaborate with others and starting a business. I think oftentimes people see it from the successful side, but the road is long and it's a lot of work, but it can really have amazing returns too. The opinions of our podcast guests are their own, which means that their stories, views, or lived experiences may differ from yours or mine. However, the one thing you will always find on this show is a common thread. Our guests passionate about helping people with their money to improve their lives, and they believe in upholding high standards for the clients and the communities that they serve. We encourage you to tune in to Real Money, Real Experts with open curiosity. Why? Because it's oftentimes in the conversations where viewpoints or stories differ from our own that we learn the most.